Can we start the program now?
We will allow all the people inside.
Yeah, allow all the people, let them settle. We have 1 minute time.
We are live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube.
Allow all the people, let them settle. We have 1 minute.
We are live on YouTube. We are live on
YouTube. Already have YouTube PHANA live करो PHANA 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 लिंक से आएगा होता है PHANA live
Okay, here's some video.
इसमें आ नहीं रहा उसमें तो पता नहीं कौन सा लिंक में देख
तेरा कौन सा फोन है? MI है?
नहीं एंड्रॉइड ही
अरे
अपना वीवो
PHANA live
आ नहीं रहा वो YouTube चैनल देख वो PDF में देख क्या नाम है चैनल का YouTube सब्सक्राइब क्लिक करो तो YouTube सब्सक्राइब पे आ जाता है
and you can subscribe there. You can subscribe there. You will get there.
Rajshekhar sir, when you give me the countdown, we can start.
Yeah, we are ready to start, ma'am. Huh? We are ready to start. Huh? Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yellarigu namaskara. On behalf of the President of PHANA, Dr. Prasanna, the immediate past President, Dr. Ravindra, the Vice President, Dr. Yatish, Secretary, Dr. Rajshekhar, and the Joint Secretary, Dr. G.V. Divakar, greetings to all of you, and we are so delighted to see so many in the waiting to set the PHANA on fire. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are on a fiery debate today, especially in the backdrop of the Supreme Court verdict, which was all over the newspapers just as recently as 48 hours ago. It was as if PHANA had timed this initiative of deliberating on the issues of fire safety, the first one in the series of PHANA online symposia, to build awareness, to see to it that all the teams are compliant, and to maintain the fire safety precautions. What was the verdict all about? As deliberations, you will recognize that out of thousands of hospitals in any city, there is only a small percentage which has obtained what is called the NOC, or the No Objection Certificate, for the compliance with the fire safety. In the backdrop of the COVID pandemic, there is a serious insight into this fact, and the mandatory compliances, which will be very deliberated by our very distinguished experts today, will enlighten you on reflecting on what you have done and looking forward on what more you need to do. So this becomes all the more crucial as an important subject, which, in keeping with the philosophy of PHANA, the Private Hospitals and Nursing Homes Association, it is very crucial for each one of you to pay attention to the string of deliberations which will be presented to you, to get into a mode of action, to be aware, to be compliant, and of course, to be safe with the fire. It's often said that it may take one person to destroy the fire, but it is the duty of each and every one of us to prevent the fire. We present to you, for the opening remarks, President of PHANA, who is Dr. Prasanna. I will be going through a complete series of interactions in order not to interrupt the flow of the entire program. And also, it will give time to all our delegates to settle down and reflect on what is likely to follow in the next few minutes. And we urge you to place your questions in the Q&A and the chat box so that our experts can respond to that. So President PHANA, who has just taken over very recently, is the Managing Director of the Pristine Hospitals and Research Center, and he has unraveled an anthem called Smile. And if you need to smile in the pandemic times, we also at the same breath say, stay safe and stay ahead of times. Get your fire compliances in place. Dr. Rajshekhar, who is the secretary of PHANA, also a very accomplished and distinguished member of the esteemed organization, having held many responsible positions and posts presently, also the president of the Karnataka Ophthalmic Society, and has just finished brainstorming an intense deliberation in the last 3 days for the entire state of the ophthalmologists of Karnataka. Dr. Yatish Govindappa, who has been the secretary until recently and stepped ahead to the post of president-elect of PHANA, is leading the Patient Safety Congress in the recent past and also holds position as a lead orthopedic surgeon and heads the Apollo group of hospitals at Jayanagar. He will be presenting on the practical and implementable compliances and safety measures because, dear friends, he has the first-hand information on these. The immediate past president, Dr. Ravindra, will deliberate on the importance of the safety in the hospitals and the health spaces because all of us tend to be very complacent, thinking that the fire calamity will not happen to us until it actually happens. He's a medical director of the Suguna Hospitals, immediate past president of PHANA, past president of the Bengaluru Orthopedic Society. And of course, my better half, Dr. G.B. Divakar, who will talk to you about the common causes of the fire incidents in the hospitals and give you a few examples of the past incidences just to bring home to your notice that it can happen anytime to anyone in any place. He is a professor at the Shankaraya Hospitals and also the managing director of the Divakar Specialty Hospitals and the joint secretary of PHANA. We have the pleasure and privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to present to you three very distinguished speakers. Mr. Manjuna, who is the district fire officer at the Banaswadi Fire Station, who has also secured the Chief Minister's Gold Medal in the year 2019-20, and he will speak to us about understanding more on the firefighting. The first-hand experience that these accomplished and distinguished speakers that are going to be presented to you today is put together by the office bearers of PHANA. Please do sit back and take advantage of that. We have Dr. Chetna, who has held many positions in the last 3 decades: consultant healthcare operations, quality and audits, visiting faculty and trainer at the Indian Institute of Health Management and the Padma Shri Institute, the Birla Institute of Technology, Science, and she holds an MPhil degree in hospital and health systems management. She will give a very practical and important deliberation on the training modules for the fire safety in hospitals. As a part of the training and capacity building initiatives of PHANA, we are going to be coming back to all of you with a series of trainings may it be the soft skills or the communication, may it be the safety, infection prevention controls, and many, many other things applicable to the private hospitals and the nursing home groups. Lastly, Mr. Kumar, who will speak to us on the national building bylaws as applicable to the hospital civil engineering. Scope of the deliberation is in the fact that many hospitals do not estimate the need to pay attention to the little details for firefighting right at the construction of the building stage itself. Mr. Kumar is the head of department at the PHE Fire and Mechanical at Shriya Consultants, Bengaluru, with 28 years of experience, a Bachelor of Civil Engineering from the Mysore University, and a trained professional in the use of FM Global Standards and Masters in Engineering from Mysore. So with this, I have presented to you the whole spectrum of what is going to unfold before you in the next hour or so. Once again, I remind you to kindly place your questions in the Q&A section or the chat box so that the response may be either given on the chat or we will discuss it at the end of the deliberations. Dr. Rajshekhar, who is the Secretary of PHANA, and Dr. Diwakar, the Joint Secretary, will be moderating the Q&A sessions at the end of all the deliberations, which means at the end of the program. So the first of the topics before we begin will, of course, be the privilege of our very beloved President, Dr. Prasanna. If he has already joined us, will make the opening remark. Otherwise, the pleasure of making a welcome to all of you will go to Dr. Rajshekhar.
Dr. Emma, I'm there.
Dr. Prasanna is there.
Yeah.
So he was one of the first few to join. He's always there in all our first 1 hour.
Yeah,
You have
I
to enable
cannot
my
see it on
video.
yeah, I
So-
cannot see it on the see you on the screen, and I think maybe you have logged in through another name, Prasanna. But it's such a pleasure, and congratulations to you once again from all the PHANA members for rightfully occupying the position of the president of PHANA. The floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Hema, for such a wonderful introduction about PHANA and about office bearers. And as I would like to tell all the members who have logged in today for the symposium, that PHANA stands for solidarity and for maintaining quality and safety of all the patients across Karnataka. So our main motto this next 2 years is to create more standardization protocols and create more awareness about all the compliances required as per the government notifications, so that our member hospitals will be a safe place for all the patients to take their treatment. So in this context, aptly, like just Dr. Hema told, about 48 hours back, we had one of the worst fire accidents which happened in Turkey, which we have all seen last night in the televisions, in the international channels, that 9 patients who were taking COVID treatment died of the fire accidents. If you can all remember, about 8 or 9 years back, there was one of the big fire accidents in Kolkata. One of the Imari hospitals run by the Imami group had a bad fire accident where many patients died, and even the promoters of the hospitals were put behind the bars, and it took a long time for them to come out and stay clear. So it's not just opening an hospital is an important thing. It is to create a safe environment for all the staff and the patients, which is one of the utmost important thing. And fire compliance is one of those things, because any patient who gets admitted to a hospital, he submits himself to us, and it's our prime responsibility to see to that these patients are in a safe environment, medically and physically, till they get discharged. So fire compliance is one of the most important thing which has taken importance because of one of our own Bangalore's fire incident, which happened in Carlton Towers many years back. So the High Court and the Supreme Court have come heavily on all the establishments to like be fire compliant. So the government of Karnataka has issued a notification in this juncture a few years back, and Mr. Manjunath, I think, will be talking on that, and the building bylaws by Mr. Kumar and Dr. Chetna will be elaborating on these things. So it is very important for us to have a fire compliance, if not an NOC at this juncture. And yesterday also Supreme Court has given a fresh guidelines telling that the government or the authorities have to appoint a nodal officer for all the hospitals treating COVID patients to see to that they, all these hospitals are fire compliant. So it assumes so much of importance right now, because one is to take care of the safety of our property, patients and staff, and at the same time be on the right side of the law. So let us deliberate today how to make our premises fire compliant and safer for all the patients. Because like Dr. Ravindra, who was my predecessor, for last 2 years we have been deliberating with many times the DG of fire services, and we have discussed with him how to get fire NOCs to all these establishments which were established before these newer norms came. Because 90% of the hospitals will get a fire NOC if the building height, which stipulates as multi-storied building above 15 meters, is raised to 22 meters. So in this context, we have given a requisition to the government of Karnataka, and we will be following up from PHANA side, because if we can increase this building height to 22 meters, most 90% of the PHANA member hospitals and hospitals across Karnataka will become fire compliant. So this is one of the important thing. Mr. Kumar can enlighten us during his talk later on, because the national bylaws are a bit different and the state bylaws are a bit different. So we need to fight in this context and get the fire NOCs for most of our member hospitals so that they are all safe. So with this remarks, I hope this will be a very fruitful symposium to enlighten us so many things which we may be ignorant, whether we are a small hospital, mid-level hospital, or a big hospital. So all of us need to be fire compliant and have NOCs in the future, and let this deliberation clear all our doubts. And we go ahead, and I request Dr. Rajshekhar and Diwakar to take this symposium forward. And we hope these deliberations will help all of us to be creating a safer environment for all our patients. Over to you, Raj.
Thank you, Dr. Prasanna. So with that kind introduction and highlighting the efforts that PHANA is putting to keep hospitals safe as well as compliant. And we are also foreseeing, as Dr. Prasanna was saying, a series of inspections from the fire department based on Supreme Court directive. In that sense, we want to see that every hospital is compliant with these fire norms, which are not so difficult to follow. It's just that being aware and being committed to fire safety that's important. I request Dr. Hema and Dr. Diwakar to take the symposium forward. Thanks, Dr. Prasanna, for your kind introductory words.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasanna. And I think, as how our luck would have it, this is incidentally or coincidentally a very relevant topic in the backdrop of the happenings, not only in the pandemic, but also with the recent judgments, etc. And I think innovation to implementation is what Dr. Prasanna believes in. He has very many innovative ideas waiting to be implemented. So we wish ourselves a great tenure under the leadership of Dr. Prasanna to see the action on the ground on many important issues for the private nursing homes and hospitals in the city of Bengaluru. Thank you very much, Dr. Prasanna. Next, we would be inviting Dr. Ravindra, who, as has been rightly said, is the predecessor who had occupied the post of the president of PHANA. Just permit us a minute to share his.
Video is not on still.
Yeah.
I think you have to open that slide. 1 minute. There is
Madi,
some.
Madi, take your time. Take your time. Arama Madi. And Dr. Ravindra has sent a recorded message. So they are playing that. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can put those questions in the Q&A or in the chat box. So,
I just have to share the screen. Stop sharing. Right?
In the meantime, Raj, let
please,
us request. Okay, Ravindra,
Yeah.
this one is it. Yeah.
Good evening. I'm glad that PHANA has arranged this symposium on fire safety in healthcare spaces, which in my opinion is a very, very important topic and to a certain extent not given the importance that it needs to be given in hospitals. This probably is due to a certain extent of ignorance or misinformation or disinformation in our minds. Fire safety in hospitals is very important, given that we are dealing with informed patients, patients with fractures, patients who are unconscious, or patients who are able to different reasons. Just imagine this: there is a surgery going on in hospital, and there is a fire. What do we do? Do we abandon the surgery? Do we abandon the patient? Or do we continue the surgery? And if so, how? These are some of the things that many of the panelists who are going to follow me are going to discuss. But then let us understand that fire safety is very, very important in hospitals, whether it is in a low-rise building or in a high-rise building. Although the norms for low-rise and high-rise buildings are different, the National Building Code has defined, as also the NABH has defined the fire safety norms to be taken in the hospitals. In the hospitals, we also have highly inflammable gases like oxygen, nitrous oxide, halogen, etc., and also inflammable liquids like spirit and some of the medicines. And these days, many of the hospitals are air conditioned and have a lot of soft furnishings. And some of the hospitals, you can have, since it's centrally air conditioned, we might not be really able to open the windows. And in the recent past, going by the experience of many of the fires in different parts of India, we see that it is the smoke rather than the fire that has killed the hospital personnel or the patients rather than the fire itself. And most of the deaths have happened due to panic because of lack of awareness. I'm sure this seminar will enlighten all of us and probably stress on the importance of fire safety.
Should do sharing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravindra. As I was just saying, that Dr. Ravindra has been the immediate past president, and with the strong connects that he has with the government and with the long tenure of experience of all the hassles that the private hospitals and nursing homes would have had, with I have been a witness to Dr. Prasanna and trying to connect and collaborate with the private hospitals, nursing homes, the government sector, the media, and every stakeholder and of course the community and the people to do their best in the interest of the patients being placed in the center. The next deliberation is in fact by Dr. G.V. Diwakar, who will spell out on what could be the causes leading to the fire, what has gone wrong in the first place. Nip it in the bud, as we may say. Prevention is better than cure. What are the usual reasons for the fire incidents in the hospitals, and also cite a few examples of the incidences in our own country where the caution would have saved many, many lives. So over to Dr. G.V. Diwakar in his deliberation on the causes of the fire accidents and the cases thereof.
At the outset, I thank the office bearers and EC members of PHANA for choosing that important topic of fire safety in hospitals as today's symposium. My topic for today is fire incidents in hospitals, causes and past incidents. Fire can occur to anyone at any time and anywhere, including healthcare facilities. It can occur in UK, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, or Brazil. 1 in 5 fire-related deaths in the world happen in India. Safety in healthcare institutions is not just a matter of poor planning or regulations, but also reflects deeper malaise prevalent in all the sectors, including healthcare, as safety does not necessarily sell. 53% of all the hospital fires are either predictable or preventable. Fire can be emerged from either external or internal threats. External threat is exemplified by the bomb blast in civil hospital Ahmedabad in 2005. There were 21 simultaneous bomb blasts in the entire city within 70 minutes, followed by another bomb blast in the trauma center of civil hospital. The affected people were included 2 doctors and several volunteers who gathered to donate blood for the blood blast victims. Internal threats account for most instances of fires. For example, the accidental fire in the Corporation Public Hospital, where patients were trapped on the top floor. As the building was centrally air-conditioned, there were no channel for the smoke to come out. It was tough even for the firefighters to smash the glass windows to let the fumes out. According to some patients, there were no announcements of the public health system, and also the staff abandoned them. In air-conditioned buildings with no natural ventilation, most victims die due to inhaling carbon monoxide from smoke. Smoke in the buildings also hampers rescue efforts. Internal causes of electrical fires: 18 out of the 90 cases due to short circuit. Short circuit can occur due to overloaded electric points, improper EPS load and acid in the battery, false ceiling panel lined with thermocol, faulty electrical wirings, and overheating leading to burning of the wires. No hospital or authority even estimates correctly at the time of licensing the patient load, how many machines it will have, and the required safety checks. Most of the short circuit related fire gutted the air conditioning unit in areas such as intensive care units, X-ray rooms, incubators of the neonatology unit. These places have equipment such as ventilators with heavy and fluctuating power load, making them vulnerable for short circuit. Air conditioning, lighting, immunizing, operating are the sources of many such fires. The lives of 47 newborn babies were in danger when the fire broke out on November 1st, 2017 at Pneumonia Hospital in Indore. Fortunately, there was no loss of life, but it's alleged that the hospital has been floating fire safety laws. In October 17, 2016, we saw one of the worst fire accidents in IMS and Sun Hospital, Bhubaneswar. 22 were killed and 120 were injured. In this case, the hospital staff tried to douse the fire with fire extinguishers, and in this process, they lost almost 20 crucial minutes before they called the fire department. This shows the lack of preparedness of the hospital staff during emergencies. On October 17, 2017, an electrical short circuit triggered a fire in the Rohini Super Specialty Hospital, Hammankoda. 199 patients were admitted in this hospital at the time of accident. 2 patients died and 4 were injured. Hospital fire safety system did not work during this crucial time. Everyone, including the doctors and the hospital staff, was in a state of panic and did not know how to respond. On December 2011, a major fire accident at Amri Hospital in Kolkata killed about 95 people. The main cause of this mishap were the electrical short circuit and stocking of combustible substances in the basement. This was a case of negligence by the management of the hospital. During the incident, the hospital has around 160 patients and also many staff members. At least 50 patients were there in the intensive care unit. Inappropriate use of the hospital basement is one of the causes. Internal errors responsible for the fire accident 18 out of 19 due to short circuit, except one which was due to the inappropriate use of the hospital basement. Basement meant for parking was used as a storehouse for liquefied petroleum, gas cylinders, torn mattresses, and wooden boxes. It also housed a pharmacy, a central storeroom, a biomedical department, and all containing inflammable articles. Oxygen enrichment of the air is primarily responsible for many fires. The amount of ignition energy needed to initiate fire reduces in the presence of higher oxygen concentration, and any heat or spark may be the source of ignition. Regular fire drills were not conducted, and several fire extinguishers were past the expiry date. The 1,500-bed GTB Hospital, Delhi, did not have a no objection certificate from the fire department. In Orissa, too, only 4 out of the 1,700 odd hospitals have statutory fire safety clearances. In Nellore, 80 to 90% of the government hospitals still did not have NOC from the fire services department. So with this, I'm concluding my topic on fire incidents in hospitals and cause of incidents. How to take care of this will be dealt with the future speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Divakar. The deliberation was centering around what are most usual causes, as in the electric short circuit, and sometimes common but could be preventable causes of the basements turning into dump yards, and a small spark of a matchstick even can ignite into a major fire. And all the incidents which were deliberated as the happenings in our nation would have been seen by you either in the print media or on the television, and bring back very tragic experiences. Who are the people on the ground there who actually come to our rescue? Here is Mr. Manjuna, understanding fire and firefighting. How do they actually do it? The first-hand example of Mr. Manjunath's experience to be shared by all the PHANA members. Sheetal, can you play the video clip, please?
Wait. Not downloaded. Oh, okay. Manjunath.
Dr. Divakar, if there are any technical things, we can go ahead with the next talk and come back with Mr. Manjunath. Manjunath is the district fire officer who has given his time and energy to record a video for this symposium and centers. It's with Dr. Divakar, and they're playing it.
Now it's coming.
ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಓವರ್ ಇಸ್ ಆರ್ ವಿ ದೇರ್? ದಿವಾಕರ್, ನೀವು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ?
Yeah, we present to you, Mr. Manjuna.
Good morning to all. Myself Manjunath. I am a district fire officer from Karnataka State Fire and Emergency Services. Today we are going to discuss regarding understanding of fire and firefighting systems in hospital building. Usually people think that fire service is only meant for firefighting. Of course, we are a firefighter. Along with firefighting, we are also the first responder of all sorts of emergencies like natural disasters, man-made disasters, train accidents, road accidents, etc. This is what we are seeing in this PPT. We are dewatering the water from low-lying areas. It is in Bangalore, HSR layout. The next one is we are distributing foods and medicines to old persons and who the persons trapped in houses. Next, this is train accidents happened in 2015 of February 30 in Anekal. Our department rescued 7 passengers from this accident. Next thing is the wonder, the great achievement from fire department. 2019, there is a major building collapse in Dharwada. We rescued 59 live casualties from these collapse, and also we recover 19 deceased body. The rescue process ends at the 7th day of building collapse. The district administrations and state government appreciated our services in this instance. This is another incident from Bangalore, Sarjapur Road. We rescued 6 casualties from the building collapse. Next thing is the landslide. It happens in Karwar district. We recovered 19 deceased body from the landslide. This is rescuing from joint wheel. We rescue the people from the joint wheel stuck in Bangalore. ನಾವು ಮಳೆಗಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ, ಅಪ್ರೂಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಟ್ರೀಸು ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವಿಂಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೈನ್. ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕ್ಯಾಜುಯಾಲಿಟಿನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು, ಹಾಗೆ ರೋಡ್ನ ಟ್ರಾಫಿಕ್ನ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅಲಾಂಗ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದೀಸ್ we are awareness programs. We are trained all sector of peoples and students regarding safety, how to handle the fire situation, fire accidents, how to operate our fire extinguisher and fixed firefighting installation. Not last but the least, ಇದು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬೆಳಗಾವಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಫ್ಲಡ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ನಮ್ಮ ಇಲಾಖೆ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ಅಲ್ಲಿನ ಜನರನ್ನ ರಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು, ನಾವು ಸೇವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. ಅವರ ಕಷ್ಟಗಳನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಲಾಖೆ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳು, ಉನ್ನತ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳು ಅವರ ಸಹಾಯದಿಂದ ಅವರಿಗೆ ದಿನನಿತ್ಯ ಬಳಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಸ್ತುಗಳನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಲಾಖೆ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿ ಮತ್ತು ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಗಳು ಜೊತೆಗೂಡಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹಂಚಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಏಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ರೆಸ್ಕ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಲಾಖೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವರ ಕಷ್ಟಗಳು ಏನಂತ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಆದ ಕಾರಣ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ರೆಸ್ಕ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ದೈನಂದಿನವಾಗಿ ಏನೇನು ಬೇಕು. Indians best hospital. This is the first hospital that the Week's magazine shows that this is the best hospital in India, and it is owned by Imami and Sarachi Group. The 4 units in Kolkata and one is in Bhubaneswar and another one is Dhaka. of having almost an 800 bedded hospital and annual turnover is around 100 crores. This hospital starts in 1996. Next. What happened? The fire happened in the basement. Usually basement, the hospitals are stored waste material, cotton waste materials, all those things. First, basement catches the fire and it is central AC. Due to central AC, the system is that the AC suck the air, filter, cool and circulate to all the floor. The same thing happened in this. The central AC suck the smoke, filter it and cool it, it circulate to all the floors. At that time, there is 160 patients in the hospital. Out of 160 patients, 50 are ICU. In this incident, 92 patients are died. Out of 92, 90 are patients and 2 are hospital staffs. Next. See, this is the fire scenario. 92 people died in this incident. 90 are the patients. One investigation shows that how it happens and what is the reason and what is the cause. See, the first fire identified in 2:15 AM. Fire detected at the basement. 4 to 5 maintenance staff identify the fire and try to extinguish. Because lack of awareness and training, they couldn't. The next, the security alerted the night administrator, Sajid Hussain and Gupta. Next, Gupta is handling, but he can't also. Then he called to hospital vice president in charge, Preeti Banerjee. His phone keep ringing because it is a late night. And then he calls to another hospital operator, but his phone also keep ringing. Then Preeti called back to the hospital. The source said that she called around 4 AM. And our fire brigade received a call at 4:00 AM. That too from police station, not from the hospital. This is the main drawback of we lost 92 casualties from this fire incident. One investigation shows that what is the cause and what happens. First thing is, one who detects the fire, he can't able to operate fire extinguishers. That is lack of training. Next thing is hiding the situation. Once you detect the fire at 2:15 and we take a call around 4:08 AM, it's approx 2 hours delay. That is hiding the situation. And next thing is, once fire started, they installed the smoke detector and they muted. If they installed the smoke detector and muted it, the smoke detector work is it should detect the fire and it should give alarm. But in this case, they muted the alarm. The system is muted. The faculties are not trained. They are hiding the thing. And one more thing is they are violating the rules. Usually, as per National Building Code, basement should be used for parking. Instead of parking, they are used to store the cardboard sheet, waste material, and all those things. Stop. This major disaster, we have no doubt that what is fire and classification of fire. The fire name is back. Fire is a rapid chemical oxidation reaction which gives heat, light followed by smoke and fumes. This is a simple definition from NFBA handbook. Then what are the 3 ingredients to cause fire? These are the 3 factors required for fire. One is fuel, that is combustible material. Second one is atmospheric air or oxygen. The third one is heat. We simplified these 3 become fire triangle. This is the fire triangle. This is the fire triangle. One side is heat, oxygen and fuel. Now we come across the definition is the combination of fuel, heat and oxygen. It will produce fire. This is a simple definition of fire. Then next is classification of fire. Based on the materials involved in the fire, we classified fire into 4 categories. Class A fire, class B fire, class C fire, and class D fire. Yenagade class A, B, C, D andre eno. See, class A fire is any material which involves carbonaceous material. Any material which burn and give byproduct as an ash. ಇದು ಬೂದಿ ಆಗ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ವಸ್ತು ಇರಲಿ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎ ಫೈರ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ವುಡ್, ಪೇಪರ್, ಕ್ಲಾತ್, ರಬ್ಬರ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾ. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎ ಫೈರ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬಿ ಫೈರ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಫೈರ್ ವಿಚ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಾಯ್ಲ್ಸ್, ಯಾವುದು ಕುದಿಯುತ್ತೆ ಬಾಯ್ಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬಿ ಫೈರ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್, ಕೆರೋಸಿನ್, ಪೈನ್, ಥಿನ್ನರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ ದೋಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಸಿ ಫೈರ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಫೈರ್. ನಾವು ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಎಲ್ ಪಿ ಜಿ, ಮೀಥೇನ್, ಪ್ರೋಪೇನ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾಸ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಡಿ ಫೈರ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಮೆಟಲ್ ಫೈರ್. ವಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫೈ these four classes based on their material involved in the fire. See, if we come across, we know what is fire and definition of fire, then we come to know how to extinguish fire. We already know the triangle of fire. One is heat, another one is fuel, and another one is oxygen. We remove any one item from this triangle, the fire is automatically going to extinguish. One is cooling, that means we are removing of heat. When we put the water, the temperature is gradually getting down and fire is automatically going to extinguish. This is. Next one is smothering, that means we are cutting the atmospheric oxygen. We are reducing the oxygen percentage level, then the fire is automatically going to extinguish. The third thing is starvation, means removing of fuel, burning material. Once we remove the burning material from the fire is automatically going to extinguish. This is a simple thing how we are going to extinguish. First one is back. First one is starvation, means we are going to remove the fuel. ನಾವು ಫ್ಯೂಯಲ್ನ ಉರಿತಾ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಸ್ತುವನ್ನ ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಮೋದರಿಂಗ್, ಅಂದರೆ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ತವಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯಿಲ್ ಫೈರ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅವರೊಂದು ಬ್ಲಾಂಕೆಟ್ನ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ. ಒನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಪುಟ್ ಆನ್ ಬ್ಲಾಂಕೆಟ್, ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಕಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಫೈರ್ ಈಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ವಿಷ್. ದ ಥರ್ಡ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೀಟ್ ಒಂದು ಆ್ಯಂಗಲ್ನ ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಪುಟಿಂಗ್ ವಾಟರ್, ವಿ ಆರ್ ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ದ ಹೀಟ್. Next, we know that there are 4 types of fire extinguishers. We already know that class A fire, class B, class C and class D. Based on the classification of fire, we did 4 types of fire extinguisher, that is class A, class B, class C and class D. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಂಪ್ನಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೋ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಥಿಯೇಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರೆ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ. ದಿಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಪೋರ್ಟೇಬಲ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಏಡ್ ಫೈರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ವಿಷರ್ಸ್. ಈಗ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ SLCನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬಂದರೆ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಮ ಆಂಬಿಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಪಾಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಆಪರೇಟ್ ದೀಸ್ ಫೈರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ವಿಷರ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ PASS pass. First P, pull the pin. See, there is a pin in extinguisher because it is a safety pin. First we pull the pin. Second, aim towards fire. Because the duration of this extinguisher is 60 to 90 seconds, that's why we go to the seat of fire at the base. Next, S means squeeze. The handle, squeeze it, and this S means sweep side to side. This is the mechanism of operating first aid portable fire extinguishers. We know how to operate fire extinguisher. This is a simple thing is pass formula, PASS pass. Once again I am telling you, P means pull the pin, A at the base, squeeze the handle, sweep side to side. This is a simple operating procedure of first aid portable fire extinguishers. Then we come to the safety point of view. The fire safety hospital is very crucial. Fire clients huge loss of lives in the building. Fire prevention measures in hospital is very essential and mandatory, because hospital are the life-saving centers. There may be an ICU patients, ambulance patient, non-ambulance patients are there. It is very crucial belief. Karnataka State Fire and Emergency Services Department is one of the agencies for issuing no objection certificate before constructions to high-rise hospital building initially at the planning stage and issue clearance certificate before occupation of the building. After the completion of the building and after the compliance of all recommendations, we are given the no objection certificate. Now, no objection certificate ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಫುಲ್ಫಿಲ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ we are going to issue clearance certificate. Next. Now, ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿರ್ತೀವಿ, what are the conditions should follow? If in an high-rise building, the abutting road means the approach road should be more than 12 meters. Minimum width of road is 12 meters because we are having ALPs, water bowser, different types of firefighting equipments. We require minimum 12 meters width road and it should be ordered to carry 45,000 kg capacity because we are having aerial ladder platform of having 40 tons and different firefighting vehicles having different capacity, which we require minimum weight of 45,000 kg capacity. Next. Once we cross to the abutting road, next we reach the entrance gate. Entrance width and height clearance. Every high-rise building should have an easy access to the fire engine to reach the premises, and the width of the same shall not be less than 6 meters. The width of this gate shall not be less than 6 meters. And the height clearance, the minimum height clearance is 5 meters. See, this is the north is there. It should be the height of minimum is 5 meters. Setback. This is the setback depending upon the height. The setback varies. 15 to 18, that is 6 meters. We require setback is 6 meters. These are the height of the building, and this is the setback all around the building. The hospital building restricted up to 30 meters as per National Building Code 2016. And now hospital building na kattivi andre adra maximum height is 30 meters and the setback all around the building is 10 meters. So next, parking. Sufficient provision shall be made for parking for two-wheeler and the four-wheeler. If the hospital having basement, the basement large losses are 92 people died at insult. Next, in each building, as per IS 2190, we should install first aid firefighting extinguishers. 100 square feet ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು extinguishers ಬೇಕು. Depending upon the occupancy, ನಾವು ಏನೇನು occupancy ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು IS 2190 ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ extinguishers ನ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Wet risers. This system consists of a pipe or number of pipes depending on the area and height of the building, permanently charged with water under pressure. An automatic pumping set start up as soon as the water drawn from the wet riser system. Now riser system ittirteve depending on height ಅಥವಾ down common set ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. It should be of minimum 100 mm diameter of pipe na ittirteve with 2 hoses and 1 branches near that riser system. Lift. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟರಿ. ಪ್ಯಾಸೆಂಜರ್ ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಫೈರ್ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ವಿಚ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇರಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ವಿಚ್. ಎನಿ ಇನ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆದಾಗ ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಟೋಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕಲಿ ಬಂದು ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದು ಡೋರ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಈಚ್ ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಶುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಫೈರ್ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ವಿಚ್. ಸ್ಟೇರ್ ಕೇಸಸ್. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ದ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ರೂಟ್ಸ್. ಸ್ಟೇರ್ ಕೇಸಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. Minimum 2 staircases ಇರಲೇಬೇಕು, one for entry, one for exit, and the width of staircase is minimum 1.50 meters. Staircase width ಇರಬೇಕು. More number of staircases is depend on the travel distance. ನಮಗೆ 30 meters ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು staircase ಸಿಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ as per NBC 2016 ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನಾವು travel distance ನ ಮೆಜರ್ ಮಾಡಿ staircase ನ ಡಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. And one more thing is, a staircase is the only safe means of escape. In case of emergency, it may be fire, it may be disaster. ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡಿ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಪವರ್ ಶಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಲಿಫ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಸಪ್ಲೈ. ಈಗ ನಾವೇನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಪಂಪ್ ಫೈರ್ಗೆ ಪಂಪ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ಜಾಕಿ ಪಂಪ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ ಡ್ರೈವರ್ ಪಂಪ್, ಡೀಸೆಲ್ ಡ್ರೈವರ್ ಪಂಪ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪವರ್ ಶಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ಅದು ಆಪರೇಟ್ ಆಗಲಿಕ್ಕೆ we are using alternative power supply for a fire pump, pressurization fan, blowers in the event of disconnection of failure of main supply. Main supply ಇಲ್ಲಿ disconnect ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, we are going to use alternative power supplies. OZIL. In addition to OZIL connection also made with this pipeline in each flow. On OZIL is type A, type B, up to 30 meters length ತನಕ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. The nature of fire is small, which cannot be extinguished by extinguisher. The OZIL hose can be deployed. This avoiding water wastage. ನಾವು hose ನ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ water wastage ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Instead of hose, we use OZIL hose for minimizing the water that law. Sprinklers ನೋಡಿದೀವಿ. It should be installed in basement on each floor. Depending upon the color, automatic sprinkler system is must for base. Come to lift ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಷ್ಟನೇ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ ಬೇಕಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದೇನೇನು ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ಸ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಲಿಫ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ವಾಪಸ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ದೇ ಡಸಂಟ್ ನೋ ವೆರ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ರೂಟ್ಸ್. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನು ತಡೆಗಟ್ಟಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ವಿ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್, ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಎವರಿ ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ NBC ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ ಎವರಿ 3 months ನಾವು ಎವಾಕ್ಯುಯೇಷನ್ ಡ್ರಿಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಅವ್ರು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಬೇಕು ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ರೂಟ್ಸ್ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ, ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಸೆಂಬಲ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಔ ಟು ಟ್ರೈನ್. ಈಗ ಅದನ್ನು ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಎವರಿ 3 months ಎವಾಕ್ಯುಯೇಷನ್ ಡ್ರಿಲ್, 2 years, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ 2 years ಎವರಿ 6 months ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಡ್ರಿಲ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. Public address system. Every high-rise building should have a public address system with a two-way communication to conduct evacuation in a systematic manner and to communicate any message to occupants in every floor from the control room. Public address system ಇದು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರಿ, ನಿಮ್ದು ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ರೂಟ್ ಯಾವ ಕಡೆ ಇದೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ. ಏನೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ. ಫೈರ್ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್. ವಾಟ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಫೈರ್. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಯಾವುದೊಂದು ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತೀರಿ, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಎವ್ರಿ ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಫೈರ್ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರಿ. ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ನೀವು ಇದೇ ಕಾಟನ್ ಟವರಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದಿರಿ, 9 people ಜಂಪ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಟೆರೇಸ್. ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಟೆರೇಸಿಂದ ಬಿದ್ದು 9 ಜನ ಸತ್ತವರು. ದೇ ಡಸಂಟ್ ನೋ ಆಲ್ ದೀಸ್ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. The fire safety plan to prevent and extinguish any fire in the building with details of action to be taken by each occupant. ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಬರೆದಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಟೆಲಿಫೋನ್ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಸರ್ವಿಸಸ್, ಫೈರ್, ಪೊಲೀಸ್, ಆಂಬುಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲದನ್ನ ಟೆಲಿಫೋನ್ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ನ ಅಲ್ಲಿರಬೇಕು. ದ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಬ್ಯೂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಎವರಿ ಆಕ್ಯುಪೆಂಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇಡ್ ಆನ್ ಎವರಿ ಫ್ಲೋರ್. ನಾವು ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ರೂಟ್ನ, ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಅಥವಾ ಫೈರ್ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಯುಪೆಂಟ್ಗೂ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತು ಈಚ್ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಎಷ್ಟು ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸೀಸ್. ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದೆಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಫೈರ್ ಫೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ವೇಸ್ಟ್. ನಾವು ಅಮರಿ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ದೇ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಾಲ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ವೇಸ್ಟ್. ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ ಆಫ್ ಫೈರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ವಿಷರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫೈರ್ ಲೈಟ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು, ದೇ ಶುಡ್ ನೋ. ಲೊಕೇಶನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುಯಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್. ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುಯಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಬಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಫ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯುಯಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್. Location of signal station, smoke alarm. Exit routes using stairs, not elevators. Elevators na emergency nalli use ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. Location of assembly point for students. Floor plan diagram be posted at central location. Remember, fire prevention is your best fire protection. Fire prevention is our best way of fire protection. Fire is easy to prevent but hard to fight. Now fire na easy prevent ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, but fire fighting is very hard. Therefore prevent fire. Now prevent fire ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಡ್ರಿಲ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಎವಾಕ್ಯುಯೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಡ್ರಿಲ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, in case of any emergency, please call to 101 for all sorts of emergencies, fire related, disasters, all sorts of emergency, please call 101. Thank you.
ಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಮಂಜುನಾಥ್ ಅವ್ರು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ರಿ ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ, ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಕನ್ನಡ, ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಎಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲೂ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So we often talk in the pandemic about COVID warriors. Mr. Manjunath and his team are the real warriors. One important thing he said, dear friends, was the delays, because everybody is in a panic mode. They want to hide everything because they are at loss on what to do. And of course, they will not be able to do their best despite all of the necessary equipment existing there unless they have a practical training. So Dr. Chetna says, gather your clan and make a plan, and make a plan for the practical training. The skill drills or the skill transfer, as we would call it, Chetna has one of the greatest expertise in the practical training, and we are very, very grateful to her on behalf of PHANA for sparing her very valuable time yet again to deliberate to the PHANA members and the teams on the practical training issues of firefighting. You will now see Dr. Chetna speaking to you on how you will gather and transfer the skills to your own teams in your own hospital, so that within fraction of seconds, in case there is a mishap, how should they respond to it? Sheetal will now play and present to you Dr. Chetna. Every time there is a pause to reflect on the fact that, oh God, there should be no mishap in our own settings, having reflected on what the speakers have deliberated so far. It's a real threatening issue. Sheetal, do you want us to play the...
Just a minute, I'm playing.
Okay. So it is.
Yeah, Sheetal?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Meanwhile, we would urge the participants yet again to pose some questions to our speakers, and they're here to respond to the same.
Good evening. At the outset, I would like to thank PHANA for giving me this opportunity to be part of this very important symposium on fire safety training for hospitals. We have heard of several instances where the best of the organizations with great fire safety planning and latest fire safety equipments have failed miserably in rescuing life and property. On the contrary, smaller hospitals with basic fire safety amenities have successfully handled major fire accidents and rescued the life and also safeguarded the property, all because of a very confident and a trained healthcare personnel who sort of had good presence of mind and were well trained to handle this accident. So the general misconception around is that fire safety training is all about how to use an extinguisher. But the reality is fire safety training is actually a complete course with defined modules and syllabus, which is learned by a combination of classroom sessions, practicals, and various drills and mock drills. So today, let us understand what are the important training needs, what should be the approach and plan in an effective training program. So the primary objective of good fire safety training is to prevent fire accidents. A successful fire safety team, the training effectiveness can only be demonstrated if there have been instances where fire accidents have actually been identified and they have been prevented. The other objectives are, of course, early recognition of fire hazards, to conduct risk assessment and develop prompt emergency response in the event of a fire accident. The various studies on fire curves have clearly shown that time measured in seconds, not minutes, is very crucial to sort of save lives because this critical time is life. If you see here the graphs and the data, it clearly shows with every minute increase in the time, lapse in the time rather, once a fire event has occurred, the temperature within that location, within that place, within the environment there is going to rise exponentially. So something which was initially at a 20 degrees centigrade, within 3 minutes of fire being caught, the heat that is generated, the temperature would be around 890 degrees centigrade. All of us are aware that more than the fire, it's the extreme heat and the smoke which is more harmful to the people and the property. So therefore, it is very, very critical for us to have a good and effective training program to develop immediate emergency responses to put out the fire as soon as we come to know about the incident. So hence the training modules should first begin with the responsibilities of the leadership. So the leadership should be aware of that they should get involved in defining clear-cut policies and procedures for fire safety, plans and provisions for early detection, abatement and containment fire. All of these have to be well documented in the fire safety manual. Then the next important aspect of orientation with the management team is to do a HERA for the fire risk. That's the hazard identification risk assessment and its control. Encourage periodic self audits and wherein we identify the hazards and the impacts of harm and who can be in the danger. So examine the precautions that are taken. So all of this are important training requirements for the leadership team in the first place. Next important aspect is creating the fire safety team by constituting the members and letting them know about their roles and responsibilities, what should be done, what should not be done, what are the code red protocols. And it should not be that in the event of a fire, when asked, they say, no, there is a fire officer, he will handle it. That is not acceptable. The burden cannot rest only on the fire officer, while yes, the command center and the fire officer is in charge, but then all of us as part of the fire safety team should be well aware of what are responsibilities and the do's and don'ts. The next most important aspect is the basics of fire and smoke. What is the science behind? What is this chemical combustion all about? What are the combustible materials that are physically present in my hospital? The solid materials, especially the stationery and the wood, the furniture, clothes, all of that, and the liquids, the diesel generator or the various chemicals, reagents which are used in the lab diagnostics, the metals which we are available, and flammable gases, anesthetic gases, LPG in canteen. So all of these, do we have them in our premises? If so, where? And are they essential? Are they required? Are they part of junk? Is it because of poor housekeeping that it has been lying there and it's a major risk for fire? So therefore all of this has to be well understood, and what kind of fire then it can contribute to. So there is classification of fire, A, B, C, and D, and electrical fires based on these sources. So it is important, what kinds of fire can happen. And of course, the bottom line here is to break the chain. We all know that this, the chemical reaction happens is because of a combination of oxygen, heat, and fuel. And how can we de-link any one of these elements in this triangle? Is the essence behind understanding the science of fire and the smoke. Of course, very important is to be able to pick up those early warning signs to prevent near miss. If we get an unusual smell or an immediate short circuit, how do we sort of try to pick up those signals is very, very is the outcome of this module. And then the next important aspect is to understand the various equipments and the fire safety systems which are available within the building. And while we are aware, we should also know if they're available, how do we use it? So these systems are basically passive and active. Passive is basically the fire protection system. So it's important that we identify. It's very, very fundamental, but it gets overlooked because most of it gets done in the construction stage. And but it is very, very crucial that we are aware what kind of insulation is there in the location that we are working. Are they fireproof walls? Which is the OT or the ICU, what kind of ductile system is there, some kind of a compartmentalization wherein the fire does not spread from one department to another. It is important for us to understand, especially where buildings have been constructed in a phased manner, and you have different systems. In recent construction or recent floor, you may have the latest fireproof mechanisms, whereas your older buildings may not have the best of the fire protection systems inbuilt into the civil architecture. So that is very, very important, so that we know we can plan which floor or which location of the building or the premises, hospital premises, the fire has taken place. Are there adequate passive measures so that we are confident that it may not spread and further increase the risk of fire. So all of this is good for planning and understanding. Next is the identification of active fire safety equipment systems, not just the fire extinguishers alone. Understanding the yard hydrants, the alarm systems, automatic sprinklers is very important. The types of fire extinguishers based on the kind of fire and what are the various methods. Depending on the location, whether the fire is in the OT or the ICU or the ward, has to be well known. And then the signages. The fire extinguishers, like I mentioned earlier, the understanding of the type of fire extinguisher for the category of fire has to be very, very clear. The don'ts has to be well understood. So we usually have seen incidents or heard of incidents where water has been used to put off electrical fires, which is very, very highly risky. So these kinds of things that a specific particular type, like the water can only be used on wood, cloth, and paper, and carbon dioxide base can be used for electrical equipment. So all of these have to be well trained to our teams. And while most of them do know how to use an extinguisher by these techniques of PAS, but what invariably happens in reality is that in the event actual accident, either the fire extinguisher is not accessible, not reachable, very heavy to even lift, or it is empty. So maintenance of these fire safety equipments is also an important aspect of training and cannot be left alone to the maintenance department. The respective staff, the healthcare personnel in the premise, where there is a extinguisher kept, should also be aware that it has to be properly maintained, it has to be refilled. So it is their responsibility. So all of these are have to be incorporated. Signages are hospitals are complex buildings full of signages. Signages are required for good wayfinding and to help navigate patients, visitors, and staff. They can be directional, instructional, or informative, but fire safety signages are a critical help in the actual event of a fire accident. So it is important we know how to raise a fire alarm. The signages should teach us that, and which is the fire escape route, what kind of fire extinguisher should not be used in this the current fire accident, where is the safe assembly area. So these not just the visibility, the understanding of the symbols, the pictorial representation should be in such a way the illiterate, the person who can't read and write, should be able to understand and follow the safety precautions. The next most important aspect is the evacuation drills, wherein we have clear clarity on what kind of evacuation plan we are going to follow, whether it's a total evacuation or a partial one. What is the preparedness of the emergency response? How are we going to triage? Availability of ambulances to transport patients to another hospital if required. All of these, and of course the fire mock drills has to be well known to everybody. The critical functions, yes, rescue, alarm, contain, the evacuation is to be taught to everybody, but the rescue team should have clear-cut clarity based on the nature of the fire. I mean, whom to rescue first, those closest to the fire, ambulatory, non-ambulatory. How do we deal with vulnerable, special needs, especially special needs patients like newborns in the NICU, the neonatal ICU, or the psychiatric patients? What kind of techniques to be used while evacuating, them, whether you using a stretcher, wheelchair, blankets, and safe assembly, area, which is the safe assembly area. So all of these have to be covered in this module. And of course, the don'ts is very, very important, because what happens is invariably people end up using the lifts and taking the wrong direction, not able to locate the safe assembly area. So these kinds of don'ts in the event of fire should be clearly taught to the healthcare personnel. The mock drills, yes, mock drills are the most effective way of understanding and practically learning the fire safety measures, wherein in these drills we sort of virtually create scenario just short of an actual incident and measure the state of readiness and test the effectiveness of an emergency response plan. The aim here is to evaluate the response, to improve the coordination, and identify the efficacy of our SOPs and probably revise them. So we should have a clear-cut schedule, periodicity of mock drills, and align ourselves to all of these. Everybody should, they should be disciplined and participating sincerely in all the mock drills. And most importantly is the shared learning. So learn whatever observations, we call it as the code observations, or the evaluation forms, have to be thoroughly studied, and the learnings, the various gaps, the errors have to be important lessons, so that we don't repeat such simple errors. In fact, we have seen mock drills bring out major issues, like especially when we have raised mock drills in the night, and the fire escape staircase, there is absolutely no lighting, it's pitch dark, and nobody can just use that path at all just because there's poor lighting, or we see that it is completely, the escape routes or staircases are blocked by immovable material. So you just can't sort of use that track at all. So these kinds of and we several times in mock drills we have seen the staff who actually come out of the building in the nearest door out, try to re-enter to go to the safe assembly point, which is on another extreme. So these kinds of simple things, that has to be clearly followed. Like I said, the measures which can be taken in the event of smoke, a simple handkerchief, wet handkerchief to cover our face, all are sort of important tips on do's and don'ts, and therefore all of these modules are very, very crucial for an effective fire safety program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chetna, for that very eloquent presentation made, because so far, as a quick recap, Dr. Divakar's presentation brings home the fact that fire incidents in hospitals is a reality. And as how Dr. Ravindra has said, that it is really, really important for the healthcare professionals to be aware and to do the needful. And Manjunath has already told us what needs to be in place. But Chetna's practical deliberation, if it's all out there, who is responsible, who is accountable, who will make sure that the practice which makes people perfect actually happens? With this, there have been several questions in our chat box, which I'm sure Dr. Ravindra and Dr. Rajshekhar and Divakar will take up at the end of the session with expert comments from Dr. Prasanna and Yatish as well. So the next presentation, being in the senior positions in corporate hospitals, I'm sure the experience that Dr. Yati should have had of practical implementation and compliance of the fire safety measures in hospital. How and what is the key to the implementation and a clear guidance of what should be your strategy in your own hospitals to prevent, which is better than facing a fire disaster. We present to you, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Govindaya Yatish, the President-elect of PHANA, Unit Head at the Apollo Hospitals, Jayanagar, on his deliberation for fire safety strategies for hospitals. Dr. Yatish, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a wonderful evening, like, all the deliberation, literally, as you said, like, fire has been set in. So when the fire is there, like, all of us need to go all the way out, like, how to, like, how to handle it. Yes, there is a insightful behavioral change of requirement is required for everyone. People need to understand this, why this whole hue and cry, what's happened in 2007, 11 at Ambry, 91 lives we lost. It is not just lost because of, like, see, as we keep saying, go back. Yeah, it's all about, like, why we lost this life. This whole instance has happened, like, as Manjunath and Dr. Divakar and Dr. Prasanna, everyone deliberated. See, a guy who has seen the fire at 2 o'clock and everything was there, but still, like, people didn't even give attention to it. See, they never knew about, like, they're going to lose so many lives. People need to know that there is the importance, the consequences of it. And if even, like, the directors of Ambry, they felt like, it is less like that. But the most important thing is the basement guy, who has seen that flame. If you have alerted everyone, we would have saved so many lives. And, like, look at we as the leaders of the any healthcare organization, or for that matter, the owners of the hospitals, it is our responsibility. As Dr. Prasanna said, like, it should come from the top. It should be leadership are held responsible. So once the leaders are accountable, then, like, everything falls in place. So what kind of culture we set in the organization? Is there in, like, people can openly fearlessly express their concerns and coming across? Ultimately, like, until unless we shift our thinking from cultural or behavioral thing to acceptance.
There is some audio issue.
Yatish, can you unmute yourself?
Yatish.
Yatish, you have to unmute.
Am I audible?
Now you are audible.
Yes, Yatish. Yeah, please carry on.
See, particularly what I want to stress here is we all believe, like, that emergency never strikes to me. An accident, if it happens to someone else, it's not for us. We can't imagine, like, we can't dream that what's happened in Amri or in Bhubaneswar, or that matter very recently in Turkey, and also, like, very recently in COVID times in Madhya Pradesh. A ventilator has literally, like, a sparkle burst, and like, there's a person died. So all these kind of things can happen. So what is most essential and crucial for all of us, like, particularly being the owners of the smaller hospitals, nursing homes, is the first thing we all need to look at is we need to have a walk in our facility. Yes, we do take a walk in the facility, but we won't give to the crucial things. Crucial things are, like, any furniture or any paper, anything coming into the premises, it is a hazard for us. That is the first mindset we all need to keep in our mind. If you won't keep that in our mind, like, we will be, like, assumption that nothing going to happen. Just a flame of fire only, like, that paper only, the small paper is enough to blaze and, like, to blow out of proportion. So the whole essence of what Mr. Manjunath said is prevention is most essential. Yes, of course, like, we all work on preventions. When we take a leadership walk, simple, like, In every unit, like, we keep on going, building and building complexity over one over the other. When we are keep creeping and keep adding, like, complexity to everything, the further, like, the more responsibilities comes to all of us, that, like, how we going to take care of it. Typical example for all of us is, yes, we say, next slide, please. Next slide, sir. So typically what happens, like, in the ICU area or OT area or dialysis, for that matter, cath lab or a ward or OPD areas, in every areas, as madam already said, like, we always need to look at the risk assessment, the impact on severity thing, and what mitigation steps we're going to take to in handling it is going to decide. So all of us know, when we do a HERA, like, it clear-cutly emerges out, fire is the first thing which comes for all of us. We all say fire can happen. We all say, like, it can lead to loss of life. And but at the same time, like, when we call a staff and ask them, like, what you do in case of fire, they're not confident of what to do. So that is the reality in any places. That doesn't matter, like, where we are working. We have finished yesterday our JCI audit at Apollo Bangalore, but still, like, doesn't matter, like, any time and every time, like, when you're going to ask, the confidence level of the staff is not that high. So understanding them, understanding the situation and the conditions where we are working, and it is not been taught for anyone in their schools. That's another sad part and the irony. It is not come as a part of, like, cultural thing. People should know about fire, in case of fire, what they should do and all. But when we take class, people won't even give attention to that. When we showed, so to stimulate them, like, behavioral changes are required. Such kind of shocked videos, like, hospital to burn down is one of my favorite video, what we take to showcase to our staff, so that, like, it should sensitize. My submission to all of you is, please do visit YouTube, go to YouTube and watch this video, particularly share it with your staff. At least it will make some behavioral change in their approach to fire. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, typically, like, I just want to take three areas of to ascertain the risks of these three areas. One is the OT, another is the ICU. See, you look at it in OT, what typically happens is, one is, like, we going to add one thing is, like, we have all gases. Another thing is, like, we need to load with, see, we won't even think, like, whether that wire, that extension card is going to take care of my entire load. We just keep on, like, the technician just keep on going and adding one equipment or the other equipment. You won't even think, like, whether it is going to take the load of the required capacity. But ideally speaking, like, when you are all designing the theater, you need to plan out that, yes, industry level electrical sockets are required. Whatever the load they may put across, like, it should be able to withstand. And we need to train our staff that, like, electrical risk is mostly happening in the theater. For that reason, like, you should not use electrical sockets like this. They need to use a purely typically industrial sockets without putting one over the other. Another important thing in the theater setting is, whenever you are prepping draping, like, particularly the surgeons, you are also need to have some patience to allow that, like, go back, please. I'm still in the OT. Yeah, allow them, like, the thing to get dried when we are prepping and draping. See, if you're putting across, like, a spirit, and you are not allowing, like, just started getting and using a cartridge and cutting, like, it's going to blaze. So these are the kind of instances do happen in the theaters, knowing that complexity of the environment and the situation. So you need to know the roles and responsibilities in the OT settings. It can be a small fire like this, like, a drape may get caught fire. It may be a big fire, like, where your entire oxygen cylinders, your anesthesia machine, your ventilator gets blown out, or, like, the cartridge get blazed, or a big fire, like, where you don't have any choice, like, just need to purge fentanyl on a patient and walk out of the room. So all this kind of, like, situation can happen, you all can imagine. So the catastrophe and things like that. So, but at the same time, you also need to know, yes, I'm in the OT, I'm operating, everything is safe here, but there's a fire happening on the other side. So how quickly, we can shift my patient to a safer location. Your whole strategies of shifting a patient from a risk zone to a safe zone. How can we go back and take a shield at a safe place behind a smoke door and complete our work and then finish off the rest of the procedure elsewhere? So all these kind of strategies are required in each and every area. It can be in the OR, it can be in the labor room, or it can be in the cath lab, or for that matter, the strategies what you're going to apply for the ward or to the ICU or to the OPD setting or to the basements or to the gas plant or even to the LPG bank storage. It's all every areas when you walk through. You always simple. I keep giving example. People very simple thing. Yes, it's an MRD. MRD lot of files are there, but files are there, but it's required essential. But what is the risk of fire? Yes, the risk of fire is the electrical risk. So what we can do to switch off the power in that room, and give an access control lock and have a smoke detector and a fire suppression system of CO2. Now no water sprinklers there in the MRDs. So if you remove the electrical hazard from MRD, medical record section will always remain safer. So in that way, we need to keep thinking at every area. Your thinking process, your strategies will be different. Similarly, in the ICU setting, the same thing here. In the ICU setting, rather than me stressing again on the electrical things, I would advise about the evacuation strategy, what you all need to keep in mind. So you need to have having one cylinder, having 8-9 patients on ventilator may not be a right thing. You need to have an oxygen cylinder and an ambu bag or a main circuit for every patient to evacuate. So that is another thing I want to stress upon here. Thing is, what I would like to further emphasize here is, as leaders, you all need to look at is you need to empower your nursing in charges. The warden, we call it as warden, or we may call it as fire marshal. In each of your floor, yes, two sets of people you need to put across deploy. One is the guy who's whole and solely responsible for the fire, from top down, from terrace to basement, or from basement to terrace to the surrounding area. His job is to go and see, does all my fire exits are clear? Is there any fire hazard materials are available? What can I do to clear it off? That is what the fire safety officer needs to do. A facility safety guy, again, he need to look at what about my electrical safety? Does all my loads are adequate, including every 6 monthly once, one in the winter season, one in the summer season, they should do a thermal audit. Thermal audit will give you the whichever the where is the loose point. In winter, some kind of equipments will be used more and the load will be different. In summer, the load will be different. So you need to ascertain you should know exactly what is the thermal load is there across the facility, and does your facility is electrically safe is another crucial thing, important thing which we all need to keep. Reason because the casings are all the insulators are all highly flammable, combustible. They'll catch fire like anything. If there is a what I would say is, if there is anything of higher load and the wire get burst and then the cable get caught and it goes, the whole thing will go for a toss and you can't control anything. Reason because you have oxygen walls surrounding. So that's another thing of very highly this thing. Coming back to the nursing station, what nurses need to do, particularly as in charges of their unit, all that they need to know is, they need to know, does my fire exit is clear? I know how many patients are ambulatory, how many patients are ventilator, or how many patients are dependent on me, and am I doing drill in all the 3 shifts? If I'm doing drill in all the 3 shifts, does all my staff know their roles and responsibility? And yes, finally, who's going to cut off the oxygen wall? Who's going to check the restroom at the end of the evacuation? So how are we going to safely shift all my patient out of my area? So all this thinking process is required by that fire marshal in the floor. So this is what I would say broad strategies. Thing is, I don't want to take much of the time. I think we are all already running behind the schedule. In the question and answer, I can take rest of the things. Any of my slides are there for if anyone required, I can I can show to them. Yes, basically, like, when you are move faster. Like, I don't want to touch these things. This thing, you can go faster. The order of evacuation is always the one who's in immediate danger. The next is ambulatory patients will come, and then subsequently, like, the sick patients. Reason because the resources are very limited, and shifting a sick ICU patient takes a lot of resources. So we are all talking about, like, horizontal evacuation, vertical evacuation. These are the strategies of evacuation. Preferably, people in horizontal is always good, easy, but vertical movement is always should go down rather than going up. Yeah, next. Next. Yeah. So just for people to know these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yatish. It is a very good lecture. Now we'll go on to the Q&A session for some time.
As Dr. Yatish was asking me, move the slides, next. That is the speed with which you need to work when there's a fire in your own premises. So it is time to reflect and audit what we have been doing, what is done as against what is desired. And there's a pile of questions in our chat box as well. So in keeping with the topic of audit and way forward, over to Dr. Rajshekhar, who is the Secretary of PHANA, to raise some questions on behalf of all our audience, and also his own deliberation on what PHANA and what each of us as accountable, responsible staff members in our own institutes need to be doing. Dr. Rajshekhar, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Hima. In PHANA Executive Committee, we had a lot of meetings and deliberations on this. There is a context behind which we are working on all these things. One is to keep PHANA members well educated and to make the PHANA one of the best organizations in the country. When we say best, it should be best because it has worked for the community, it has worked for the hospitals, and the hospitals have got benefited. And when you compare in terms of quality and care with regard to the patients, also the safety, the PHANA member hospitals should stand out apart. In this context, recently we were going through the news items of Supreme Court deliberations on fire safety in hospitals. 2 days back, the judgment has come, and the judgment clearly says, and it has asked each state to appoint nodal officers, specifically looking at fire compliances and fire safety measures in all the hospitals, and to periodically monitor this. Based on this, in the due course of time, we are going to have a good number of exercises both within and from with the government with regard to fire safety. Here, two things are there. One is safety. So this safety, as Mr. Manjunath very pointedly said, the best way of protecting ourselves from fire is to prevent rather than to fight. So to prevent, Dr. Chetna and Dr. Yatish have emphasized very well that our training, awareness, awareness and training. And this training, how frequently it should be there, in what all ways you can train and be ready with those mock drills, ordered drills. That's extremely important. There are a lot of questions that have come in. So I was telling two concepts. One is being safe. Second one is being compliant. Being compliant becomes a bigger issue when there is an incident. When you have prepared with safety and there are no incidents, this compliance will be soft pedaled. But if there is an incident and compliance also is not there, then a lot of legal things will kick in, and that is not good for the hospital, that's not good for the management, and that's not good for the overall healthcare industry. Any one hospital getting any bad name, that will reflect on rest of the hospital also. Patient will be afraid to go to another hospital. So this is where we should take care of not only our safety, the entire safety of the healthcare community. So there are some questions. And with regard to the audit, see this audit, so we don't have to do audit for the sake of NABH, for the sake of some compliance, or because the government is asking. This audit should be our own initiative. The top management of the hospitals, the staff of the hospitals should insist on self-audit with regard to, suppose there is a fire now, there is a smoke now, are we prepared to handle it? Have we gone through all the precautionary methods that are there? In this, however intelligent we may be, however the books may teach us, take professionals' help. Take professionals' help. This is, I'm speaking from my personal experience as well as my interactions with various fire department people. They're experts in telling you. You call. One of the best things about this fire department is they're very friendly. They're very friendly, very passionate guys. Like, you know, any fire anywhere in the city, somebody is not like, you know, rescued or something, they feel bad actually. That's the compassion with which they work. You call them, they come, they give you training, they give you drills. They don't charge you much also, or if there is a protocol, the charges are very nominal, but the wealth of information you are going to get and the safety to which you can push your hospitals is enormous. Moving on to the question and answer, one Dr. Pradeep has asked a question, whose responsibility is that? Whether it's the hospital employees at different cadres or the management. This question, can I pass on to Dr. Yatish? In case of a fire, like, you know, whose responsibility is it within a hospital? Is it the staff, or is it the management, or is it, who is that?
Yeah, as Dr. Prasanna said very clearly, like, you know, it is the ultimately the leadership. So we all know the example of what's happened in Amri, like, you know, all the board of directors, including the chairman of the company, has been taken, and they were also, like, you know, were in the jail, like, you know, literally. So that is the level of prosecution, what I would say. So, but at the same time, understanding that, like, you know, the delegation of powers which has been given by the board to the individual hospital leaders, and further delegation, it's goes further and further. So everyone are responsible, I would say, in the act of anything, like, you know, I would say of negligent behavior or conduct. It will be everyone are equally responsible, and it starts from the board or the chairman to the frontline person. Everyone will be taken for task.
Very well summed up, Dr. Yatish. It's everyone is responsible. Management is more responsible to ensure that everyone gets to the mindset of being responsible. It could be anybody's life. Whoever thinks it's not my responsibility, tomorrow it may be his life or her life that's at stake if a fire accident should happen. Another question is of Satish Rangarajan. He asked, is it recommended to use handheld thermal cameras periodically to proactively detect systems that heat up? If yes, what is the best way to go about it? Very well pointed out, Dr. Satish. Here, I would say it's like, you know, we can take the help of the firefighting personnel. When you call them, you tell them that this and this equipment are the ones which are more likely to get heated up. These are the equipments which are in closed environments. These are the equipments which are on 24/7. So these are the inputs you can give, with which they can suggest you what are the proactive steps, how to place it, what is the kind of ventilation required, what's the periodic management that's required. So let us take the professionals' help. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. They'll tell you the preventive things. They may ask you, instead of one, they may ask you to put 2 smoke detectors. So many suggestions they'll give you. It's best to take the professionals' help. It's a good thing. All of us can think through this. Some areas in the hospital might be more prone because of the heating equipment. Point very well taken, Dr. Satish. Dr. Sudha Umesh asks, what is the procedure to take NOC for government sector hospitals? What is the procedure? Dr. Chetna will answer, or Dr. Yatish will answer this. What's the procedure to take NOC for government sector hospitals?
Yeah.
Very tricky question.
Yeah.
Government hospital taking NOC.
Yeah. They're also like an entity like us, like, you know, the administrators who are sitting there, like, you know, they need to apply to the fire department like us, and submit their plan, their approvals of their buildings. With the building approval and the request, then they can make. Recently, government also made, like, you know, the NOC can be taken by online applying that. Sitting, if you upload your building details and the plan I think definitely like the fire department will do come and for an inspection, and they do give the NOCs.
Dr. Rajshekar, if I may just interrupt.
Please,
Dr.
please.
Yatish, it is more said than acted upon, because the recent survey in Bhubaneswar said 1,700 hospitals, out of which only 5 hospitals had the NOC. So that is the kind, it also goes to show that nobody is paying any attention and seriousness of what could actually happen if there is a fire accident. I do hope that PHANA will get their act together, and we will all be up to speed to get our NOCs, if not already achieved. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this, PHANA has been working constantly with the government. The two aspects to this. One is there are already set government guidelines. We have to walk towards that. One is showing our intent in preventing fire and trying to work towards making compliance. If there are 10 points there are 8 are doable. Have we done those doables with the clear intent? Many times the answer is no. With those 2 which are difficult to do, you may not be able to push the neighboring building away, and you may not be able to create space. But rest of the things which you are able to do, have you done it? So this is where that self-audit will take you through. If on 8 on 10 you are there, then PHANA has a greater bandwidth when we go to the government. In fact, Dr. Ravindra and Dr. Prasanna worked very hard. In some of the compliance sheets that were given to all the hospitals to fill up and give, what's the kind of methods and systems you have, not even 10% had responded back. The fire department was asking, this is the kind of intent and this thing you are showing, how can we come forward? So, and hence, for our own safety, for the safety of our patients, because fire doesn't discriminate. If there is an error somewhere, if there is a lapse somewhere, if fire happens, like Yatish was saying, you should only see the videos. Otherwise, you can't even imagine what can happen, how fast it can spread. Mr. Manjunath was speaking about few minutes delay causing 92 lives at risk. Minutes he was talking. So that is the enormity of the problem that we are talking at. And hence prevention is the best thing here. And this symposium, I'm sure, will go a long way in that. Getting NOC, yes, if there are so many points, comply as much as possible. What is very difficult to get it, that we are working with the government to see how an alternative technological solutions can substitute and still make the building safe and eligible for NOC. So we have to walk with an intent and a commitment in that direction. Hope Rajeshwari Ganesh's question is that, and we have answered that. How frequent should be the training is one question. Huh? Sorry?
I want to ask Chetna about how many times training has to be given for the hospital staff. So Dr. Chetna can
Chetna, you are there?
Yes, she's there.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, please. Not audible.
No.
Yeah, I take this. Madam is not there. Like, yeah.
She's there, ma'am. She's there. Madam, you are not audible.
She's not audible.
Yeah. Yeah, Yatish, you can take that.
Yeah. See, there is nothing called as prescribed. Prescribed is at least 3 months once you need to have a drill, and there has to be a learning. But as leaders, like, it's our responsibility to see how my staff able to reproduce, whether they're not there. You need to do a training need analysis, and once you do a training need analysis, you feel like they are weak, please train them. So that is what, like, I would say there is no hard and fast rule, but they should know their roles to play, what role they need to play, who's going to if there is a smoke. It's just simple examples are the small electrical circuit near a syringe pump, and just very simple thing. If they won't pick it up at an initial stage, it may take the whole thing into a different direction, tangential. So that small things of picking up to calling for an help, right help, to then knowing their roles and responsibility. It is a huge training initiative one need to do. Thing is, people need to know this is must, this is basics. So that is what I would say, there is no hard and fast rule, how many times you need to train. As long as you should be able to demonstrate your roles and responsibility, it's fine.
And one more question is, what are the protective gears that is made available to the hospital staff? What are the protective gears to be made to combat fire?
Particularly PPEs is what is required for people who are going to do a firefighting thing. But whereas for other staff, we as doctors and nurses who are working in the hospital, we may not be able to go and fight the firefighting things, but we will be there to evacuate the patients. Our role, responsibility will be how safely we'll remove our patients to another environment and taking care of them. But whereas the firefighting team, it can be a salvage team by using your housekeeping and your security guards, what you try to do in suppressing the fire and as well as removing the fuel out. So those guys need to be given at least with a gum boot and a helmet and a gloves are mandatory. That is what people say, and including goggles. If there's a smoke is there, they're ideally good to have a respirators. But understanding we should not push anyone to go in the range of smoke in the interest of their life.
So here, Dr. Divakar, just to add to Dr. what Yatish said, there is going to be a cost to preventive measures. It's going to be an expensive affair getting all these things, but it's an investment because in the event, if it should not happen, but in the event fire happens, the damage that's going to happen to the whole thing is enormous. Compared to the probable damage, this investment in preventive equipment is worth it. One should not hesitate and not even think that it is a waste or anything like that. So if it's required, it's required. That's it. So no second thoughts in that, no cost cutting in that.
Okay. So that's one more point I want to bring it here, sir, Rajshekhar, sir. See, particularly all of us need to understand, hospital is a public place. It is though you are the owner of a hospital, don't ever think it is a private space. It is a public space. When people are coming, publics are coming, it is all the more our responsibility to make them safe. What I would like to say.
Well thought out. Nice. Chetna ma'am, if your audio is fine, would you like to add?
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible.
Adding to what Dr. Yatish said, I mean, there is no hard and fast rule in terms of the frequency and the periodicity, but we have to look at the end outcome of a training program. While we all know what fire safety is about, but there is a wide no-do gap. That means we have to bridge that gap. Whatever is the knowledge about fire and the fire safety have to be translated into action. So if it calls for repeated training on a daily demonstration by that particular staff, it is required. The organized training modules, which is either run by the Mundkur Academy or what the Home Department of Home and the Fire Services are suggesting, is initially for a complete orientation and induction, at least 30 man hours of training is required, right from understanding the basics till doing the drills. But that is just to lay the foundation. Like I said earlier, it is, if in the event of a fire, the person has to be confident enough to put out the fire and rescue the life. The end outcome has to be periodically measured. So which means, weekly and monthly reviews, all that is very, very critical in terms of the frequency of the training that is required. So if you have to take simple language, what is, will I be able to handle a fire if there is one fire accident in my home? Am I trained adequately to rescue my families? What is the confidence level? If we ask oneself, where do we stand? So from that perspective, an effective training should translate in reducing, bridging the no-do gap and arriving at the end result of the program.
Dr. Rajshekhar, there is another very interesting follow-on question for Chetna, which Rajiv Kumar has raised. It's usually the staff nurses and everybody below them. It's as if it's their problem, they have to do. So who trains the leadership, or how much they should be involved? Consultants in cardiology, cath lab, ICUs, for example. How does that cadre come in or fit into your training programs, Chetna?
Fire distinguishes no one. So whether it's the chairman and the managing director of the organization, or the last man line in the queue in the patient care has to attend for all these sessions with utmost discipline, whether it involves classroom training or it involves practical demonstration. I think fire does not distinguish anybody. So each and every person has to consciously be a part of this a responsibility. It is not just individual responsibility, it's a social responsibility to the community. If we may not be able to be skillful enough to put out a fire, but are we confident in preventing fire? Because it is protecting the environment and the public. So therefore awareness with regards to fire safety, prevention, and also the fire safety measures should involve everybody, all the clinicians and the management personnel and the floor staff, the staff and the clinical and the
I think before Dr. Rajshekhar leaves, Chekta and Yatish and Divakar, with your permission, I would really like to read out a comment by Dr. Mahendra Kumar. Great program, Dr. Rajshekhar, sir. Well conceptualized and executed, very apt and a serious subject for today. There couldn't have been a better way that FANA could have started their online training programs, believe me. Kudos to FANA team and best wishes for many more educational events. That's what they're saying. And I really think that both you and Divakar have put the program together so effectively, because the topics and the speakers both are really hands-on. And Yatish, one comment to you is, yes, we know that there has to be a whole team which is responsible for training. Even it can happen very probably seamlessly in bigger hospitals, but FANA caters to the smaller nursing homes as well. And therefore, the initiative by Dr. Prasanna, yourselves, and the team, FANA, which may really take a serious note of the need for these trainings on a digital platform like these, where more effectively, if not 30 hours, a little more time devoted for having all of us realize the seriousness of the skill drills that we need to do. I think that in keeping with the way forward topic that Dr. Rajshekhar had, I'm very sure that leaders in FANA will make this very real in the days to come. Dr. Rajshekhar, any more comments from before you leave, and before we close with the last one deliberation by Mr. Kumar, because get smart and use safety right from the start. While laying the foundation of the building itself, there are a lot of things that you have to discuss with the civil engineers, for example. So that's what his short deliberation is going to be. And before we come to that, we will let Dr. Rajshekhar make his remarks before he leaves the program. Yeah.
We are very much encouraged by the good participation that's there. There were 90 plus people participating here and more than 40-45 people on the YouTube. For the benefit of those who have missed out, this entire program is available on FANA YouTube channel. The link that we had shared with you is a subscription link. Subscription means you just have to subscribe once and forget. Whenever any program that is there, any educative thing that is there that FANA does, and if it's put on YouTube, you will be alerted about that, and you at the convenience of your time and freedom, you can see any number of times. You can make your staff see this is a useful program. It's a Sunday evening. All of you have spare time. Thank you so much. That shows your interest in the subject. In the coming months, we are going to come with more educative programs. Please do attend, spread the word. It's a collective knowledge sharing and being together that will take us through tough times in an easy way. FANA is in its third decade now, and let us make it stronger in the coming days. For those of you, there is a 30-minute video now specially taken by a specialist who is in building construction, who can give a lot of tips about how buildings can be made fire safe from the day one. That will play now. Those of you who can watch, please do stay back and watch the entire thing. Otherwise, the same thing will be available on YouTube also. We have shared the link. And over to you, Hema, ma'am. Thanks for everybody. Thanks, Hema. Thanks, Yatish, Chetna ma'am, and Manjunath, who is not there.
Yeah.
Indra, who has been inspirational and who has been motivating us, and Prasanna, our president, who always says we should do more and more programs. He is not happy with one or two. He says more.
Yeah, thank you. And that is the homework to all of us, because Arun Kadkoli says we must have more programs like this, maybe a certification course. There may be, we really make sure that the skills are transferred. And I think with the reciprocal enthusiasm that the PHANA members have shown, I'm very, very sure that we are all more inspired and more motivated under the strong leadership of the teams in PHANA to do more. Life is always a great learning process. And today, by the end of this, Dr. Diwakar and myself have learned how to play the video. So please allow us to share the screen for one last video by Mr. Kumar, who is a civil engineer by profession, and he has so kindly
specialized in the hospital building bylaws.
And I'm here to take you through the concepts of fire.
No, B. Kumar is Chief of Share Industrial Consultants, and he'll be telling us about civil laws and civil rules which you have to maintain while the construction of the hospital. We'll start the video now.
Production system, specifically for hospitals and nursing institutions. So I'm HOD of in the company called Shreya Industrial Consultants, looking after plumbing and fire and other mechanical services. Our office is located in Rajajinagar, and my details are there in the slide, just for reference sake. As everybody knows, a lot of fires are occurring in hospitals due to many
Okay.
Please permit us to start this once more. Yeah.
I think you have to open this. Open this full. One minute, I'm sharing again. Share. You come to the middle.
to take you through the concepts of fire protection system. Based on this, we can see, you can say first, we can go in detail with regards to the all the classifications. But for today's discussion, I just limited myself to the building classification. And in the building classification, it is divided into group A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and J. So, which includes all type of different type of buildings which are normally prevalent in the. So in going through this, we can see that there are many requirements. So the first one is the general exit requirement. All the exits should be to the exteriors of the building, like what has been indicated in this picture here. Yeah. So here you can see the person exiting out from a staircase has to exit out to the outside, and then the person coming out from the lobby has to get out to the ground floor and to the open area, or any other staircase. It is from the building. People has to go out. It has to go out through a common passage, and minimum 2 exits should be there, so that an alternative means of escape is always there. So all these are requirements of the building. Not only these, if these things are taken care, then the systems, whatever we are proposing, the exit passageways should be in conjunction with the travel distance. That is also required. So there are then there is something called as the internal staircase and external staircase. Staircases could be provided internal to the building, wherein it is surrounded with the floor area. In such a case, the internal staircases are to be pressurized. But if the same thing, if the internal staircase should be 2 meters, minimum tread should be 250 mm, and riser should be 190 mm. All these things are details are given in the NBC code. Come to a common place where from there through that area people can be evacuated using the fire tenders. This the floor area exclusively for firemen is to be provided, and the lift shall have a floor area not less than 1.4 square meters. That is a 8-passenger lift. And lift, all the lifts should have self-closing doors with EAD, that is auto rescue device, which are rated for the as per the requirement. So these can also be provided, and these fire curtains will normally have ceiling mounted, and these fire curtains will come down and block the spread of the fire if any fire occurrence is there, and the other times it will be rolled up and kept at the ceiling level. In the first basement, as per the EB regulations, main electrical panels shall not be located above any water storage tanks or anything like that, or the pump rooms. It should be kept on in a very safe place. I already indicated about the gas lines, and the standby electrical generator can be located in the first basement, but at no point of time it should be installed in the lowest basement where there is a chance of flooding of the basement. Alarm control panels, the PA system, the nurse calling system, or the main whatever the systems are provided inside in that particular facility, all the systems should main control should be in this particular when there is a fire. So such things should be taken care, and such materials should be avoided in the facility to be used. So another very important point is the emergency and escape lighting. These shall be these emergency lightings can be in the form of photoluminescent signages, or it can be battery powered units which can give out a exact direction when there is a fire. So these escape lightings will indicate the in the facility. And all such drills should be recorded, and a safety plan has to be there. And once in 3 months, it has to be mock drills have to be done to ensure that the safety plan which is there is in actual usage. Vehicular load shall be designed for a 45-ton vehicular load. Normally, it so happens especially in hospitals and nursing homes that although 6-meter wide fire driveway is provided, there is also a parking is also provided in the same, and then ambulance also comes in the same way. And in case of an eventuality, there will hardly be any space for the fire tender movement. So such things should be avoided, and seen to it that whatever parking is done or ambulance area is indicated or provided, they should be out of means more than see the 6 meter it has to be provided, and for this it should not, this 6 meter fire driveway should be exclusively for the fire tender movement only. And the travel distance from the different farthest point to the building to the entry point of the staircase is the nomenclature for that, and the travel distance for different type of buildings is also indicated in this chart. So for institutional buildings, it is a building with a type 1 and 2, it is 30 meters, and building type 3 and 4, it is 22.5 meters. So accordingly, the system has to be designed. And if the complete building is sprinklered, then there is for a possibility that these travel distances can be increased to 1.5 times the indicated value. So then the travel distance will get increased, but not more than 45 meters at any given time. A person goes out and comes into a refuge fire assembly area, so that from there onwards, whatever further requirements are to be taken care, the authorities can take the necessary action further. So the first person to the last person, that is the total time what is taken for the fire to occur, fire to increase or develop into a flame. And this should be very fast response should be there. And this time, whatever the systems what we are providing should be such that people are kept informed earlier, and then before the fire grows into a fast and unmanageable situation, all the people from the building are taken out. Else there will be casualties and
Thank you very much for the lecture by Kumar. I don't think there are any more questions. I think we'll close today's meeting. Any other questions from the anybody is there? So I thank for today's webinar the invited speakers, Mr. Manjunath, Dr. Chetna, and Dr. Mr. B. Kumar, engineer, for their excellent presentations. And I thank our PHANA faculty, President Dr. Prasanna, and ex-President Dr. Ravindra, and I thank Dr. Hema Divakar who conducted this program so enthusiastically, so correctly and neatly. And I thank other office bearers like my friend Dr. Rashekar and Dr. Yatish who have contributed in a big way. Thank you all very much. And if there are any questions, you can write to us or to the PHANA office. You can directly contact us. Our PRO is there. You can write your questions to by email to us, and we'll answer it, and we will take further course of action. Thank you all very much.
Ellarigu namaskara, and looking forward for many more sessions which will kindle the fire in our minds to discuss and do more. Thank you very much.